My name's Jeremy Gilley. I'm an independent documentary filmmaker. As I was growing up, all around me were scenes of aggression, war and hate. I couldn't understand why we just can't get along. The more violence I saw, the more frustrated I felt about not being able to do anything about it. But I wanted to try. In July 1998, I decided to make a film about peace. Then I realised there was no day of peace. That was it. I was going to try and establish the first ever annual Peace Day, a day of global ceasefire and non-violence, a day for everyone to become involved in the peace process. If I failed, the film could make a profound statement about a world unwilling to change. If I succeeded, well, that was almost inconceivable. I wrote to Sir Kieran Prendergast in Political Affairs at the United Nations. I wanted to tell him my idea of creating a day of ceasefire and non-violence with a fixed calendar date. He invited me to New York. I couldn't believe it. I borrowed my mate's suit, my granddad's tie, and got a free ticket from British Airways.
In the Foreign Office, the training traditionally has always been, when there's a new idea, what 20 reasons are there why it won't work? Well, I thought, you know, this fellow is either a fool or a visionary. And, of course, it's always very difficult to know which of the two. It may work, and if it does work, it'll be very good.
I didn't stop travelling. I had to build a case for the day's existence.
The day could be the beginning of a deeper process. It has the practical impact of allowing access of humanitarian aid, access of information, freedom of movement, relief from the pressure and tension of not knowing where the next bomb or bullet may come from. That, to me, is an idea whose time has come.
You need to be patient with the process or it won't happen.
Absolutely.
And we need to be patient with the process as well, because unless you get support, it won't happen.
Yes.
Putting resolutions together in the UN is the hardest thing in the world.
Yes.
To get the commitment of others to do it.
If there is a cessation for a day, then it gives us an opportunity to move supplies safely through places that are otherwise difficult.
This is my suggestion. When you go around the world and find a group of people who do what you do in their country,
yeah,
then go to another country and do the same thing, so it'll make your thing more powerful.
Yeah. How old are you?
16.
So you're about to leave school soon?
Yeah.
Will you do it for me?
I think it's a great idea. Any moment, whether it's a day or a week, that we can give the combatants to pause, to think, and reflect on what they are doing to their own people and to the environment will be a great achievement, and I would support it 100%.
The United Kingdom and Costa Rican governments have now joined together to strengthen and reinvigorate. The need for such an enhanced approach was originally brought to our attention by a UK-based non-governmental organisation, Peace One Day.
This is a step forward in international relations.
Be observed as a global ceasefire day. It further recommends towards our collective ambition to make peace a reality throughout the world, 365 days a year. Thank you, Mr. President.
May I take it that the Assembly decides to adopt draft resolution? It is so decided.
You know those things that you have in court that you whack? They whack one of them.
Peace days came and went with no ceasefires or humanitarian action. It was so frustrating. I honestly thought it was going to work. I thought governments would get behind the day they voted for. Individuals that heard about the day observed it. It was beautiful. But the cynics, they always seem to be louder.
The violence in the Middle East, the violence in Kashmir. How does that, do you believe, translate itself practically on the ground, and can
get their heads around whether this means anything, because peace in the playground, peace in the street, it could sound a bit nebulous. It's a big idea.
The problem is the bit about the guns falling silent. That's the bit that you haven't managed yet.
The only way to silence the cynics was to silence the guns. We had to make it work in an area of conflict. I went back to the United Nations to see a man called Ahmed Fawzi. He helped me launch the Peace One Day campaign on the 21st of September 1999. He was a real friend, he was a mentor, he was a believer.
We need to look at all our operations and see if there's any operation that is ripe for a peace agreement, and get him in early.
In the building of the case to establish the day, one of the things that, of course, we were saying all the time is people's lives could be saved because there is a cessation of hostilities.
Things are shaping up. It's taking a bit of time. I understand what Jeremy's saying.
We'll be doing a send-out to heads of state and
move money
UN
around and do everything that we can to
Just
help.
sort of to try and get a sense of how logistically it will work for you in southern Sudan.
We must get on the phone. We cannot not deliver.
Ahmed Fawzi was really pushing it. He wanted to make it work as much as I did. After a lot of meetings, a ton of phone calls, we got a break. Not a ceasefire, but UN agencies were interested in trying to manifest humanitarian activity in the Democratic Republic of Congo on Peace Day. I flew to Kinshasa, and the process began.
To make the humanitarian space to allow these activities to happen. There will be a lot of logistics required. You still have militias in there that are defying the central government. So I can't tell you now it's all done, but this is something to work towards.
How does the process of making the 21st be successful over the next 7 weeks? I'm wondering what logistical things can you share with us?
Well, it's something that is it's not a given that it will happen. But at the end of the day, if we keep our eye on the object, which is to help a suffering people, it'll come out about right.
As a result of these conversations, on the 21st of September, UNICEF led an integrated immunisation campaign for vitamin A deficiency, deworming and measles treatments. Insecticide-treated mosquito nets were distributed, benefiting around 600,000 children in the conflict-affected South Kivu provinces. There were many agencies involved. This was the first sign the day provided a window of opportunity to carry out life-saving activity. And it didn't stop there. Other organisations were getting practically involved on Peace Day. The International Rescue Committee in Congo reunited a family torn apart by war. This young woman was forced to fight for rebels. The IRC found her and brought her home. Pump Aid installed an elephant pump in Liberia using former child soldiers within the local communities. As a result, they were drinking fresh water. The World Food Programme carried out a food drop in southern Sudan on Peace Day. 60 tons were delivered successfully. Star Syringe carried out safe immunisations across the world, from India to Indonesia, from China to Saudi Arabia. It was so encouraging that everyone's efforts were paying off. Individuals were also acting all over the world and in large numbers. In Iraq, individuals organised gatherings, speeches, plays, songs. This community was coming together amongst the devastation of war. Inspiring. The humanitarian activity that had taken place was a foundation, but until there was a ceasefire, where the guns stopped and lives were saved as a consequence of that process, there would always be cynics, and understandably. It was frustrating to hear people say it could never work in Afghanistan, you could never get the Taliban involved. I pushed as hard as I could to manifest such an action, and suddenly that opportunity opened itself up. Ahmed Fawzi introduced me to UNICEF.
So you're saying on the 21st of September, we want a ceasefire in this area of Afghanistan so we can immunise children?
Exactly, this is what we're going to be calling for.
You know, it's amazing, and I stand by you.
In 2007, with our first ever Peace One Day ambassador, Jude Law, who I met during my days as an actor, we travelled to Afghanistan to develop and document the preparations for life-saving activities. So how did it all work? We spoke to government, UN agencies, non-governmental organisations, local organisations. We met doctors, elders, children. We went on radio, television. We spoke to as many people as we possibly could, telling them the 21st of September was a day of ceasefire and non-violence. If the conflict stopped, they could get to the children and vaccinate them against polio.
Having come back to Afghanistan and seen the situation, and spoken to your friends, I mean, what are you feeling right now about the opportunity of pulling what you want to pull off on the 21st?
Will we be able to implement everything? I'm not sure. The more people you have on your side supporting the state, the better that is.
We'd very much like to ask to have a cessation of hostilities for the duration of the day, so that the children or people in Afghanistan whose lives are deeply affected because of conflict could be supported and helped.
We would love to support this initiative, but the other side is not your classical military opponent. It's one who works with suicide bombs, roadside bombs. We have no easy access. We are not sitting around the table with them.
هغه دا مجبوري چې پلار مې مریض دی کار نشي کولی.
تاسو هم پلار د کور کې؟
نه کور کې نه خو تنخواه یې کمه ده.
She says in one sentence that her father.
Does she want to tell me about that?
قصه کوي چې والي څنګه مشکلات دي.
هغه ټانک والو خپې مات شي.
For this to really work, you also have to include insurgent groups, because for them to lay... do you think there's a way that communities...
We are the neutral group.
Yes, of course.
We are the absolutely neutral group who live in those areas.
Right.
And live in the same village with them. We have presence in every single province in 34 provinces. 21 years I was spokesperson for the resistance. For me, nothing is big.
Nothing is big.
No. I mean, when I was fighting against the Soviet Union, people used to say that, are you crazy? Now I'm here sitting in my country and the Soviet Union doesn't exist. I exist, but Soviet Union doesn't exist.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to today's special...
that really is the message of this film. This film is about documenting and seeing how Peace Day can save lives.
What happens in Afghanistan inspires the world, gives them hope that if it can happen here, it can happen everywhere else.
کمپاین زیر نام یک روز به نام صلح در کابل آغاز شد.
زموږ یوازینۍ هیله د استادانو د ویملا امامانو قومي مشرانو څخه دا ده چې د واکسین په مفاداتو یې پور کړي چې دا واکسین وکړي واکسین د ضرر شي نه دي همدا داسې تاسو مایوب څخه خلاص ځکه ګوزن کولی شي ماشوم ووژني او بیا یې مایوب کړي د نیوزي جدید څخه شروع ټول هغه ماشومان چې عمرونه یې پنځه کاله کم وي باید واکسین ورته تطبیق شي راځئ د دا ولس د عملي کار سره یو ځای قدم کېږدو او هر کوچنی چې په هر نقطه کې وي هغه ته دوه څاڅکي واکسین ورسوو.
7 weeks ago, UNAMA and UNICEF launched an appeal for a day of peace in Afghanistan, together with Jeremy Gilley and the actor Jude Law, representing an organization called Peace One Day. I am asking your support for a total cessation of violence across Afghanistan on the 21st of September.
پیش از این نماینده ویژه سازمان ملل متحد از گروه‌های درگیر جنگ خواسته بود از خشونت دست بکشند.
This is foremost an appeal to you, to all groups, all institutions, all the people in the country. Show that you want peace in Afghanistan. Tell people you want peace in Afghanistan. Do something, big or small. Help us make peace in Afghanistan real.
I quote from a news dispatch today. A rare 24-hour cessation of offensive operations marking International Day of Peace appeared to be holding firm across Afghanistan. It was a joint effort with the Afghan authorities, the government, the army, NATO, ISAF, the International Security Force, Afghan NGOs, all participated. But most significantly, the Taliban also agreed not to block access to health workers involved in the campaign.
Now with these peace days, we have an opportunity building more every year on every year. It's not a pipe dream, it's a reality. 1.4 million children vaccinated in Afghanistan during the peace days last year, and this year we hope is going to be 1.8 million.
This is the fear, this is the dread, and these are the contents of my head. And these are the years that we have spent, and this is what they represent, and this is what I feel. Do you know what I feel? Do you know what I feel? I want peace one day.
There you have it. The gun stopped for one day in the one place on Earth everyone said it would be impossible, and lives are being saved. We've proven categorically the day works. The next phase is to institutionalize it. Make it a day that's self-sustaining, like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Earth Day, so practical action can grow. I wanted to talk to somebody who really understood what institutionalization was all about.
I think of institutionalizing something as making it have a concrete reality that is accepted by everyone that encounters it. In the case of Peace Day, it would be a day that everyone counts on occurring, that's meaningful to them, has an existence beyond someone telling them that this day is designated Peace Day.
How many people have I got to reach, do you think? What's the tipping point?
You know, the way a movement is created starts small, with a small number of people believing passionately in it and spreading the idea to the 99% that aren't aware of it. So using celebrities, using famous people, political leaders, is a way of getting that critical mass. But at some level, until you get the whole world participating, you haven't really succeeded. That's a hard lesson, eh?
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to say that. That's kind of like, oh my God. I mean, are you sure? I mean, is there not? I kind of thought that there was a point where there was some kind of equation.
Well, first it moves in fits and starts. So there's no equation that will tell you you've reached success. But the effect of that is that these trends go up slowly for a while, and then they rapidly increase. And the point at which that occurs is typically on the order of about when 15–20% of the population is aware of something.
So, okay, so great. I've got to get it to 15 to 20% then in order to kind of see that real rapid growth. There's no mystery to it, is there? Or?
Well, there's always a mystery to what takes off. Every so often there's a thought or a passion that grabs the public, and we don't understand quite why one works and one doesn't catch on. But if you have that, then I think what you're doing of trying to create it as a regular day gives it a shot to live on.
Could you predict how long it might take to tell everyone, given you've seen what you've seen? And secondly, ever known anything like this before?
I think, Jeremy, you're the first person that's ever come to me with a thought that he wanted to take to the entire world. Where you've come so far is very impressive. The question is, can we make this real for most of the world? And I couldn't tell you whether that's going to occur in a year, a decade, or never.
It was interesting listening to Doug. What can I do that was going to institutionalize the day? Get to the 15 to 20% of the world's people that Doug mentioned. Clearly there are activities that have a global reach, like film, music, football, education, and social media. Well, they all had to be used. But getting out there, meeting people, that's what it's about. I got an opportunity to meet the president of Colombia. A member of their government was at one of our shows, and they wanted to use Peace Day in their country. Are we running? Thank you. The first thing I'd like to do is show you a little film. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. Be relaxing for your day. Thank you. I've always done this. Show a film, bring the concept to life before any discussion. It can be a little tense, making someone like a president sit for 8 minutes before we've even started talking.
Every year. It's not a pipe dream, it's a reality. 1.4 million children.
Thank you for coming to Colombia. Yeah. Is this your first time in the country?
Yeah, my first time in Colombia. And I've been, you know, when I was thinking of coming to Colombia, my perception of Colombia was, oh, is it okay? Is it going to be safe? And now, having been here and speaking to your ministers and your mayors and your vice president and the young people of Medellin, and it has completely transformed my perception of this amazing country where the people have such courage and passion for peace.
This country is doing the best. And welcome, and we are ready to work with you for the success.
Yes.
In next year.
Yeah.
On September the 21st.
Fantastic.
My administration can work with you and leave all the things with the due diligence for you not having problems. And we consider that this is a very important initiative for our country.
En un mismo barrio pueden haber varias pandillas o grupos de jóvenes armados. Yo no, que hace unos 8 o 10 años uno no podía muchas veces cruzar de una cuadra a otra porque no era permitido. No podía usted, por ejemplo, está en su cuadra, usted pasa allá porque me lo matan ahí en la otra cuadra.
Un día de la paz sería algo, como decía el compañero, algo pues inalcanzable, algo como imposible, algo como que cese de armas, que el tiempo se detenga, no es un minuto de silencio solamente por los muerticos, sino que se detenga todo y que no hayan fusiles, que no hayan militares, que no haya esa barrera que uno viene en la ciudad y la encuentra.
Young people have always inspired me. They want peace no matter where they're from. I went to Medellin 10 years ago, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. That's changed. Investment in libraries and schools in the worst affected areas has made a positive impact, showing there's an alternative to violence. But it's an ongoing struggle. So I was keen to build connections in Colombia for peace one day. We've created a global education resource in the 6 official languages of the United Nations.
So this tool, in addition to the tools that the teachers have, I hope will support them to inspire the young people.
Excellent, Jerry.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm very committed. This is an incredible country.
Jeremy, congratulations. Congratulations for your decision.
Okay.
For the nobility of your cause.
Okay.
It is an exemplary cause.
Peace Day was unanimously adopted by every member state of the United Nations. Well, that created a global platform from which to reach out and make things happen. America is one of the most influential countries in the world. If we could establish a USA resolution that the 21st of September was not only the day of peace for the world, but also the day of peace for America, then that would surely help institutionalize the day across that continent. It would also set a precedent. I got a meeting with Senator John Kerry, a man who understands the importance of peace. With his support, we might have a chance of creating a resolution. Without it, I could be running around these corridors for years. The meeting had to go well.
Do you or does somebody else put together an actual conflict resolution curriculum?
We've done that, sir.
You've already done that?
Yeah, we've done that. That's the education resource.
That's what gets implemented. That's the key piece. So what's the next step?
One of the things that's come out of these conversations that I've been having here with other senators is the idea of a resolution being put forward so that before Peace Day this year, there's a resolution where this government has said, you know, we voted for this day at the United Nations General Assembly, we care about peace.
My judgment is that people have grown more cynical of big one-day events, but the next day, they're not going on to do something. Because if you don't, Jeremy, if you don't, you actually can wind up creating more people who are more disenfranchised because they don't see anything happen.
I mean, I think the reason why it's grown and worked is that people are suddenly being empowered when they feel very disempowered around the issues of peace, and it is extending way beyond that day. Certainly the reports that were coming from Afghanistan were that the bridges that were built on that day were so solid that they didn't get pushed over the following day.
Let's flesh out the tangible pieces so that, you know, everybody's in a sort of pragmatic, practical mood here.
Yeah.
Of wanting to know that we're really getting something done. And so the more we can show that it's not just the one day, but it's this ongoing effort, the curriculum helps. That's a good piece of it. But it's not the whole deal.
Yeah.
This is very short fuse. But I think we could get that resolution if we work the language.
Senator, amazing. Thank you so much.
Glad to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks so much. With a government process underway, there were other key areas to penetrate. One of them is the corporate sector. If corporations were on our side, we could utilise their marketing muscle and products to raise awareness of the day, but most importantly, they could help us financially to survive. I met the CEO of Puma, Jochen Zeitz. I wanted to use the game of football to manifest action on the day. He liked it.
Welcome to the Puma Peace One Day launch of the One Day, One Goal campaign.
When I was traveling the world, I was meeting lots of people who were saying that football is actually bringing us together. So I had this idea, what if we could have football matches being played in every single country of the world on the 21st of September, a day when conflict subsides, friendlies prevail, and individuals, communities of different cultures and colours unite together as one.
You know, to really say, okay, let's do a combined effort, a global effort on one particular day that has never been done, and I think that's a wonderful opportunity that we just must take advantage of. And it's not something that we're doing, you know, in order to promote the brands, just using the power we have as a company to actually help make the world make it a bit better.
Instead of kicking ass, let's kick the ball on September 21st. Will you play?
That's a big goal that we've set. I think it's an amazing initiative, and peace is something that must concern all of us. And the wonderful thing about Peace One Day is that it's not just focusing on governments and parties at war or countries at war. It's something that engages everyone, that creates awareness, that everyone can contribute to peace, no matter how big or small. And that's what really fascinated me about the idea.
Key figures, well-known individuals, are crucial to engaging and raising awareness. If I could get high-profile people on our side, publicly supporting, attending our events, then that was going to help get the public behind the day. By the way, I had tried to raise awareness myself, but no one ever turned up to the press conferences. I was a nobody. Do you think individuals' commitments to peace on the 21st of September are important?
One individual may be small, but united and combined all 6 billion people, that will make a great difference.
I'll talk to you further about it, but hopefully there'll be an event on that night, or there will be an event on that night, for Peace One Day, which I will give you all this information on, but it's going to be an amazing thing, and I'm going to need you to talk to production to make sure that that night I have available, and even if I'm working, they need to give me a certain amount of hours if possible. We just have to block it.
What will you do to make peace on 21 September?
I wanted to go back to Afghanistan with Jude to support the preparations for another peace day. We reconnected with all parties involved, including President Karzai and the press, supporting the process of establishing a second ceasefire.
UNICEF and Afghan Red Crescent and many other organisations. For us, the cause is so close to home. So it must work. Well, thank you. Anything that we can do to serve Afghanistan directly, and of course, the larger humanity, which we are part of as well. Yes. So, good idea, good objective, and a great initiative. Well, that's amazing because
My God, getting in this place is unreal, isn't it?
Unbelievable. I've never been to a more fortified place in my life.
I mean, he committed, didn't he? He totally committed to doing something on the day. It was amazing being back, hearing the stories of how the day was being institutionalised by the Afghan people. They know about war, and they understand the importance of peace, and they were running with it.
ځکه دا ډېره نیکه ورځ ده او موږ سخت دې ورځې ته خوشحاله او دې ملاتړ کوو.
We're very grateful to the government, Taliban, as well as ISAF, for giving their formal support to this campaign, making sure that there will be no armed conflict today, and that through this and the subsequent campaigns, we get rid of polio in Afghanistan.
من به خاطر صلح سلاح خود را به دایاک تسلیم میکنم. شما برای صلح چی میکنید؟
Afghanistan remains one of the most violent places on earth. It was inevitable we were going to have some tough questions fired at us, but we had to get the message out there and support the call to action.
I was just wondering how your message of Peace Day correlates with the war on terror.
There are many wars going on throughout the world. We ask all member states of the United Nations
interested in
to
how you've been
observe
trying to get this message. I mean, we're sitting here in a secure compound. This is not where the enemy is.
We did not come here to negotiate. We were here, if you like, to plant the seed that the day existed.
You say, of course, everybody wants peace, but people also want conflict because that's how their lives are going to change.
You're absolutely right, but even those people at certain times want respite from violence.
You know, if one person's life is affected as a consequence of having established a day of peace, well, if it were your child, then you'd say it was the greatest day that had ever happened.
It was humbling and inspiring to see people committed to peace after decades of violence. When I got home, I turned the TV on.
Are famous people always the best champions for every cause? Here's journalist Marina Hyde with her personal view.
Celebrities have always been involved in the news to some degree, and you've often seen people in the past, attach themselves to particular charities and causes. The International Day of Peace is a sort of UN-backed initiative for there to be peace across war zones for one day where people can go and do things like get vaccinated.
Its campaigning's achieved a lot. However, very simplistically, Jeremy Gilley's main tools appear to be the use of celebrities.
Who he seems to think is to be some sort of magic key that will unlock world peace. I've actually complicated his vision there.
He takes Jude to Afghanistan, where they spread the word about While they're out there, Sky News consulted Jude Law about the situation in Afghanistan.
You think, my God, a Sky News asking the star of a remake of Alfie for a sort of, strategic assessment of how the war's going in Kabul.
Funny watching that show. Of course, famous people are an easy target, but I'd seen the process working in Afghanistan with Jude. I couldn't get press interest and such high-level traction alone. His involvement created the profile the campaign needed, and this TV show was proof of that, ironically helping bring institutionalisation a little step closer. Clearly, there was more work to be done. Looking for the biggest platforms or ideas to silence the cynic and get the 20% of the global community on board was everything. Jude suggested the Olympics. Perfect. It was in our hometown. We got a meeting with Lord Sebastian Coe, made a big pitch he liked and suggested we talk to Ruth Mackenzie. She was in charge of the Cultural Olympiad, everything to do with the legacy the Games would leave behind. Given the Olympics began to stop people fighting, how fitting would it be if we used it to raise awareness?
Here you are with this incredible vision. What is it that we should or could be doing?
Well, this is what's very interesting, where I think we can form some kind of relationship today.
This Cultural Olympiad programme would start on the 21st of June.
Are you going to do a show that night?
Not yet. So
that would be
that's an opener.
Maybe
I was wondering about that.
Why don't we pull together
something for the 21st of June?
Well, we know we can pull together.
The Olympics is a time when you have the attention of the world for this incredible period of time.
That's right.
It's leading towards the 21st September. If we can somehow use that momentum
but
alongside
also for us,
leaving a kind of legacy.
Well, you just took the word out of my mouth. You would be the start of our legacy. So if we can build up to something that then just jumps to the 21st of September.
Yeah.
That would be marvellous.
Maybe that year, 2012, we do it at the Olympic Stadium will be empty, but then we do it at the Olympic Stadium.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely convinced we have to do that.
This relationship gave us a potential global stage to help institutionalise the day. I needed a global idea to go with it. I had one, but it was going to be a tough sell.
So listen, Ahmed, the first thing that I wanted to tell you was that I'm going to be a dad.
Unbelievable! Oh.
Yeah, man.
You did it!
I did it.
He did it. Well done. This is a fantastic progression.
It's wonderful.
Okay. We now need to lead a process where we establish the first ever global ceasefire, i.e. every head of state stating, in the same way they did in Afghanistan, the Americans, the Afghans, the UK, the Taliban, the NATOs, the whole lot, ISAF, etc., saying, they all agreed to not to fire unless fired upon. If we can do it there is no reason with the right individuals, with the right understanding, that we can't get every single head of state in the world within the next few years to agree to not fire unless fired upon and stop the world fighting for the first ever time. And I believe that's the next step.
I'm trying to understand your concept for phase 3, and it's right that it should be a very ambitious project. It sounds over-ambitious.
I think we all agree that the power and the success, the beauty of Peace One Day is its simplicity in its idea. And everyone gets it, and it empowers you because you get it. You suddenly think, gosh, that makes absolute sense. And if you look at this scenario, absolutely simply, it suddenly becomes possible. And that's why it is over-ambitious, but at the same time, perhaps in life, what we do seem to do is overcomplicate things. The blueprint that was created by Peace Day in Afghanistan, the equation, if you like, the promise of life-saving activity to the people in areas where they were suffering, that included their children, was, for want of a better description, the carrot dangled. If it's a matter then of finding that carrot in all the different places around the world, then how hard is that?
You see, the problem ain't the people who are the beneficiaries. The problems are the politicians. It's the politicians in power who don't want peace. But mankind has been struggling with this great idea of peace on earth since it was created. And I don't mean to pour cold water. I'm as enthusiastic as you are. But we have to find the right approach so they don't think we're nuts.
Let's get the member states of the United Nations who voted for this resolution to agree to not fire unless fired upon. And then from there, we sort of, filter down the process. 21st of September 2012, in line with the Olympics giving us the Olympic Stadium for Peace Day, to close the Olympic Festival.
But it's too naive to expect that even if we can get 192 heads of states and government to sign whatever it is we want them to sign, what about the drug cartels in Colombia or Jamaica? You have to ask yourself, what will it take to get the meanest son of a gun to put his gun or her gun down?
That's why I brought up the idea of the carrot. If you can find that in all those different places.
I mean, there's only really one thing that you can offer, I think, and that's the fact that this is going to be the first time that our world has agreed to not fire, to stop, and that's the only carrot. The carrot is for our children. It's about prepping it up, as you've pointed out, but there has to be a way, like every great campaign, global campaign, that launches this thing and it penetrates through all sectors of society to go, that moment is the moment it is going to happen, and you cannot not be a part of it. It doesn't matter if you're selling drugs, it doesn't matter if you're selling opium, whatever it is, you cannot fight for the sake of our children. And we unpoliticize it by making it the ownership of its realization by ordinary people.
It's like waging war. Waging peace is like waging war. It's got to be serious and substantial. What you're building up to has to convince not just the cynics, but the intellectuals, the politicians, and the grassroots. That's why we really have to think about it very carefully. The concept of world peace. It sounds wonderful, But it ain't easy. There's an obstacle course there.
Good.
Good. Did you just say good?
Yes. You know, we started this conversation with me telling you that I was going to have a baby. If your little baby or your little girl comes home to you and says, "Daddy, this is the day when nobody fights, and I don't want you to fight, Daddy," then, you know, I would imagine that you go, "Well, I won't."
Is gentle as a rose.
We're doing everything we can to institutionalise Peace Day. And I don't know how long it's going to take, as Doug pointed out at the beginning, but we've got to hit the 20%, and the foundation for that is solid. Football is now being played in every single country of the world on Peace Day. Matches that are not just bringing people together, but actually have a humanitarian benefit to them. That instigated Puma and Adidas, who have been enemies for 70 years, to make peace on the day. And the press around that told millions of people.
By joining hands, we can contribute to raise the awareness for September 21st.
Coca-Cola created a peace can distributed across the UK, the most famous brand in the world, spreading the message of Peace Day. The digital work we do with social platforms like Facebook is getting people involved. Our annual musical celebrations, supported by international artists, help us spread the word.
So you see, the day is working.
Every year, more and more humanitarian action takes place. In Afghanistan, over the last 3 years, it's continued to work, resulting in 4.5 million children being vaccinated against polio due to successful ceasefires involving all parties. Senator John Kerry pulled it off. He took the idea to Senator Menendez, and he took it to the American government. The resolution was passed. Peace Day was not only the day of peace voted unanimously by the UN, it was now the day of peace for America.
Senate Resolution 274, supporting the goals and ideals of Peace Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to.
Without objection.
So it feels right to try and manifest the first ever global ceasefire in conjunction with institutionalising the day. How are we going to make it happen? Well, it's early days, but we need to enrol the most influential figures in the world to lead the process at a political level to stop the fighting. Individuals from all continents, many of whom we have a connection with already, and if we don't, we'll write letters until we do. Like Ban Ki-moon from the United Nations, Amre Moussa from the Arab League, Jean Ping from the African Union, Barack Obama from North America, Alvaro Uribe Vélez from South America, and other international figures.
On 21st September, there should be no violence, no conflict, no fighting at every level of society for at least a day.
If we all get involved, 20% of the world's population could be aware of Peace Day by 2012, when our world might stop fighting. It's a big mountain to climb at a political level. Some will say impossible, but some said that about creating Peace Day. Some said it would never save lives. For me, it's not about the end result. I care about the commitment to try and make it work. I want to believe that we can move from a culture of war to a culture of peace. We have to believe. And if we believe and take action, then a global ceasefire can be possible.
We got to